Hit the start streaming button. I see me. I am on. Apparently I'm muted. I'm muted for you guys. And okay, good. You can hear me. That's just on my screen. Thank you. Appreciate that check. Because I hadn't noticed that. It just sort of popped up. Carla says, hi, Siofra and Ian. Hi, Carla. Welcome. Where should I go? A little bit that way? I think so. A little bit caca. Let me move over just a wee bit. It looked like I'm more in the middle. No, it's easier for me to move. Everything else is working fine. And see and hear you. Thank you. Good. And Ian said he could too, so yay. I was just feeling off center because I was like, it looked really weird. How are you doing, Carla? Like a few other people have jumped in. They haven't said hi yet.
I'm a little under the weather today, so I probably won't be saying much.
I had to take him to the emergency room this morning to find out what he had. He has influenza A. Carla says, pretty good. How about you guys? Yeah, apparently I'm answering the question before she could type. Yep. Kind of cold here. Oh, yeah? Well, we're not too cold here. I mean, we're nippier, but Trey says, hi, Siofra and Ian. Hi, Trey. Carla says, oh, no. Yeah, it was kind of annoying, too, because when we went to the ER, they had this attitude thing when they took the sample to check to see if it was COVID, influenza, or RSV. The woman who took it was like, well, none of these are coming back positive. Like, don't expect to get any response. And then she had other comments to make later, like, most people just stay home and deal with the symptoms and don't come into the ER. Why are you here? I was very annoyed. Carla says, oh no, healing vibes to you, Ian. And maybe a few to me too, because I've been exposed the same as him. And they guaranteed I was going to get it. I'm hoping that they're wrong, and I'd like to make them wrong about that. So I'm doing what I can to try and, keep the influenza A at bay. Teresa says, glad you could make it today. Yeah, I wasn't sure when we went to the ER this morning what was going to happen. And, but we got him on medication that they wouldn't have given him had we waited. Because it was his symptoms only started yesterday, but he had a fever and everything. So, and Violet says, "Hello, you two." Hi, Violet. Carla says, "People are such a-holes. Super protective vibes for you, Siofra. Thank you." Yeah, it was kind of annoying, and yeah, they were very passive aggressive and not believing that there was a good reason for us to be there. Derek says, "Hello, Siofra. Wishing you good health." Thank you, Derek. So yeah, it's like, what is up with you? They gave him IV fluids. He was, definitely dehydrated a little bit, and they told us that he didn't have a temperature, and they lied because they took his temperature again, and it was 100.8. So he still had a fever, and people. So yeah, it's life. It happens. And, with him going through all the anemia stuff and everything, I just felt it was good for us to take him in and find out immediately if they could tell us what he had. So then we're not trying to guess. Yeah, I believe in science and medicine.
And, it's not all that achiness and a fever and everything else is more than just a little head cold.
So Beth says, hi, everyone. Hi, Beth. Carla says, healthcare is breaking down for sure. Did you see about the United Healthcare CEO? Oh, yeah, it's on all the news. Yeah. And the guy actually wrote messages on the bullets that he shot the guy with. So they haven't caught him yet though, so we don't know for sure exactly what his motivation was.
Have they said what the messages are?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
basically, you're not giving us health care kind of thing. It's like
Okay.
deny, dispute, and some other word.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I remember.
Carla says, yep. So, we try and wait and see what's going to happen. But it's I can't imagine what the two people that spent the night with him the night before he went out in the morning to kill this guy feel now that they found out that he left them and went and murdered someone. They're probably kind of creeped out and wondering if they're capable of being able to pick up on stuff or not and questioning their own ability. Carla says, hi, Beth. Carla says, deny, delay, defend. Yep, that's it. Beth says, hi, Carla. Trace says, deny, defend, depose. Aaron says, hello. Hi, Aaron. Jen says, hello, everyone. Hi, Jen. So, yay, we got most of our regulars here already. Carla says, the bullet said deny, defend, depose, I think. Well, I'm sure that they know. Whatever it was, that's kind of the words that they had. Yes. That sounds like it had to do with healthcare. So yeah, Ian didn't sleep well last night. He was coughing all night, and then woke up this morning with a high fever. So I decided it was a good idea to take him in, even if they didn't agree with me. And when it was all over, I pointed out. I mean, even the doctor was like, gave us a prescription for Tamiflu, and he says, but there's really no evidence that this actually works. And I'm like, give it to him. There was a lot of just naysaying going on. Like everybody was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. No, he doesn't have anything. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're going to get sick. Get ready for it. And I'm like, you guys take your negative energy and like throw it out the window, please.
And older people die of the flu. You hear about it all the time, and we got really sick.
We almost did one year. Yeah. Carla says, do you guys have essential oils? Teresa says, you must have been a nurse in one of your lives. I don't know. I know I was a healer for a long time. Carla says, if so, diffuse some eucalyptus and peppermint. Oh, we do have some peppermint oil. We actually might have some eucalyptus too. Yeah. Astra says, hey guys. Hi, Astra. But yeah, we have the stuff that we usually take. I think we still have some echinacea too.
Some capsules.
Yeah, we got some capsules. We should dig that out. And that's it. The elderberry was what I was trying to think of, actually. So we have some elderberry as well, because that stuff is really healing. Beth says, didn't think I made it. Took a hard fall last night. Ian, get better soon. And hi, Astra.
I'm sorry you took a fall.
I'm sorry you fell down. Falling is not fun, I know, from personal experience. Carla says, elderberry is fantastic. Yeah, elderberry is really good stuff. And my body responds really well to natural plant medication and stuff. I always have. Teresa says, I connected telepathically with a woman I've never met last night. She said she is in Chicago. Okay. Does she know that you connected? Carla says, uh-oh, what happened, Beth? Yeah, I went through a phase where I was seeing things happening to people I did not know in other cities, and I thought that's pretty pointless. What's the point of that? Because I was watching someone being sexually assaulted in an alley in the middle of the night, and I woke up and I thought, I can't do anything about it. I don't know these people. So I stopped because there's no point for me. Teresa says, yes, she knows for sure. Oh, has she contacted you? Laud says, hi, glad to be here for the live stream. Hi, Laud, how you doing? Laud or Load? Teresa said it was a pleasant communication. Well, good. I'm glad. There's certainly plenty of people on the planet. You wouldn't know how to find me. Okay. Then there's no way to verify whether she knows for sure that you had a connection, except the experience that you had. for her, it might have been completely subconscious in a dream without any kind of conscious awareness. Carla says, I'm ready for solstice. Tina says, hi, everyone. Hi, Tina. I'm ready for solstice, too. I'm going to see if I can cook my turkey, but that's only, 2 weeks? And we'll see how everyone's feeling. I'm not going to be cooking a big meal if we're sick. Hopefully we're not. Here's the me not catching it and him getting over it quickly. Yeah. So, what do we want to talk about today besides us? And we're waiting to find out how Beth is doing. Carla says, you guys won't be sick then. Good as new within a week. Yay. Teresa says, I had that happen one other time. I eventually did meet her. She remembered the communication and confirmed it. Well, that's good. It's always good to get verification, but nowadays people meet each other that don't know each other all the time on the internet. Beth says, Carla, I get up late at night to get things done. I reached up for something high, or my Achilles busted my, I'm thinking, rear end and head. Or probably she would say arm, so it must be. I'm so sorry. Did you get a concussion? That sounds, and Achilles, that means it's going to be hard to walk. Like, yikes. He had almost lost his Achilles tendon by taking an antibiotic once that he had a reaction to. That was scary.
It turns out, though, that it was a known reaction to that antibiotic, so, yeah.
And it had just come out. And that's why I'm glad I asked good questions, because when we went to get the medication, I asked the pharmacist what potential side effects were. He says, we don't know. It's too new. So I made them give me the original disclosure statement so I would have it so I could know what might happen, especially being so new. And sure enough, he had one of the rare ones. And I made him stop taking it, thank goodness. Achilles tendon still snapped every day for like a year and a half or 2 years. Every time I took a step.
It made it act up for a couple of years afterwards, and I'd only taken 2 of the meds, too.
Right. Only took 2 days. 2 of them. Astra says, that happened to me with an antibiotic. It gave me bad inflammation of my Achilles. Yeah. Teresa says, sorry to hear that, Beth. Take it easy. Carla says, ouch, ugh. Hopefully you won't need the shots, steroids. Astra says, the doctor gaslighted me. There actually was a class action lawsuit against the pharmacy company for this particular antibiotic down the road. Carla says, I'm sorry you hurt yourself, girl. Astra says, then the ER doctor caught it and told me to stop taking it. Thank goodness. Good ER doctor, yay. Sometimes you get the A team, sometimes you don't. Beth says, no concussion. I damaged the Achilles years ago, like flapping in the wind. It's weak and swollen. All right. Well, that's something. Astra says, I have stomach problems after taking it. I'm sorry. I mean, we're all such interesting, various chemical laboratories walking around the world, and everything affects us differently. It's just actually amazing to me that anything works on anyone. Beth says, thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Carla. We're incredibly complicated. The amount of variations there are between our body chemistry, even though on the surface we look alike. Like internally, there's a lot of variations. Carla says, only old school antibiotics here. Yeah, yeah. It all depends on who you are and what's going on.
I'm really glad we caught that one, because that apparently it totally destroys the Achilles tendon. If I'd have taken more of that without Siofra catching it for me,
you would have lost your Achilles.
I would have lost my ability to walk, yeah.
Yeah. I actually worked on a woman who had taken the same antibiotic, and both of her Achilles ruptured. So she basically went from being able-bodied to completely disabled in an instant. So yeah. Teresa says, so what inspired you to start online classes and circles? Well, I participated in that online healing class on Zoom, on someone else's Zoom. And I started thinking about it. And, I looked into the pricing for it, because in order to do it for more than 40 minutes, you have to pay for the software program and whatnot. But it wasn't so exorbitant like I thought it was, and I decided I would just do that so that then we can see each other face to face and do like one-on-one conversations, and like that way this is great and we love doing this. More people can participate, but if I decide to do it and when I decide to do it, it'll be limited to no more than 10 participants so that I'm not completely overwhelmed. I have to think about my physical and mental health, um, as you know, for doing this, and make sure that I'm taking care of myself and my boundaries and so forth. But it just seemed like a good idea to offer more direct for people who want to study a specific thing, especially, and have specific questions on that, and are struggling with trying to understand what's going on or what have you, or just want to be more broadly informed on a specific subject. I'm not sure yet whether I'm going to do a circle. What I did for this other group was just a healing circle, and that's what I was thinking was the healing circle. I wasn't necessarily thinking like a ritual celebration for the holidays kind of thing, but a shorter, because even that took almost an hour just to do that part with everybody. Um, and so, time is definitely a factor when it comes to how much I'll be able to do it and how much mental bandwidth I have available for the process. If I get too exhausted, then I can't think straight. But yeah, that's kind of. So Beth says, our body thinks we can do things when we were 20. Yep. And Carla says, can you see this comment? Say no to Cipro. Yeah, that is actually related to what Ian took. It was levothyroxine.
Yeah.
And Trey says, that's wild. It affects only the Achilles. No, that's because it's the largest tendon. It affects the tendons, and the Achilles is the largest tendon. Beth says, I'm very sensitive to modern medicine. A lot of people are. I mean, like we have to figure out for ourselves what's going to work for us and what combination of things are going to work for us. I figure if you have uh, anthrax, take the Cipro and maybe lose your Achilles tendons, because without it you're probably going to be dead. But they were giving it
better than anthrax.
Better than yeah, but they were giving it for everything. The woman who lost both of her Achilles tendon was given it for a bladder infection. I mean, unnecessary. They could have used so many different other things for her. So yeah, I think they get overzealous in the beginning when something first comes out. But yeah, Astra says, I took doxycycline and Accutane. Good to know. There's a lot of, I can't take a lot of antibiotics. I'm now allergic to the main 3 families. Astra says, horrible drugs. Yeah. We're all so sensitive. But I really appreciate that people are responding to my attempt to find out more information. It seems pretty clear from the. I was surprised I could only ask 4 questions from the survey I did, that for the people in Europe, 6 p.m. their time is better than 5. So I'm like, okay. So if I do a course, class, or whatever for them, I will definitely not do it at 9 my time, which is 5 their time. So Carla says, yes, they wanted to give Cipro for UTI, and I just about had a fit. Derek says, I'm highly allergic to penicillin. Hi, Derek. And so am I. And they always ask me why or how do I know it. Been allergic to it since I was like 5 or 6 years old. So yeah, they really question your ability to understand what's going on in your own body sometimes, which I can understand because there's a lot of people that don't know what they're doing. But I took Ian to the hospital this morning because I wanted to find out if they could tell us what he had, so I could stop guessing. And and now we know. So yay. Type A, yes. Influenza A. I don't know how many different varieties of influenza are under A and which ones are under B, but they only have A and B, so I'm sure there's subsets that I don't know if they test for them or not. But yeah, apparently it's no longer true that none of the tests that they've done so far come back positive. Because we came back positive. So there. It's in town. Like, it's here. Woo! Astor says, oh, that influenza A kicked my butt. Yeah, and Ian and I both got so sick one time. That's when I was leaving my body and going into the light. Um, I really didn't understand I needed to go to the hospital. We were in the middle of a power outage here, and we went to a hotel because I was coughing so constantly and had a pretty good high fever and whatnot. Had lots of visions. That was interesting, but saw inside my body, saw outside my body. Wasn't scary. Kept going into the light. They kept bringing me back, and then they said, "Can't bring you back again." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I guess I better not go anymore." Because it was pretty. I liked it. I would rather not have that option available again, so that I don't have to worry about it.
Well, that was that sick.
Yeah, we were very sick. Right, and it was wintertime. It was actually December, closer to Christmas. I think it was between Christmas and New Year's or something. So, Carla says amoxicillin is pretty tolerable in broad spectrum and is a good sub for penicillin. Erin says, I also can't have penicillin. Beth says, and that medicine they give you for surgery makes me time jump. Interesting. Astor says, laugh out loud. She, her psychic ability kicked up from the flu. Well, yeah. I mean, seriously, I was seeing microscopically. I actually saw the virus that was in my lungs. You know, I saw my lymphatic system. I saw my circulatory system. I was like all the way down to the itty bitty parts. And then I went macro and went out to the bigger things and saw my two guardian angels. And then I saw the light. And then, oh, those are pretty. I want to get a closer look. And, oh, look at that light tunnel. That's nice. Let me go up there for a bit. And then they brought me back. Then I went back inside my body. Yeah. Every time I closed my eyes, I was seeing stuff. It was very interesting. And I liked the fact that it wasn't scary. It was just very, particular. Ah. Teresa says, I've been wondering about people worshiping beings like Lilith, for example. Some say is a demon, while some say she's a dark goddess. What do and how to decide? I think it depends. I mean, she's obviously a character from the Bible, according to the creation stories or whatever. She was Adam's first wife. And so if that's her mythology and so forth, then that dovetails into some type of Judeo-Christian religious iconography and whatnot. There's certainly plenty of dark goddesses out there, and I'm sure she is a form of a dark goddess and she could be powerful for protecting women because she's mad at men, but she might not be good for being in a relationship with a man if she's around, because she doesn't like men. Yeah, so I don't know. I think they also think of her as a succubus and looking for men's seed to make her demon children and whatnot. I mean, really, there are so many different deities out there to choose from. Pick one that has a little bit less baggage, maybe, with it. Unless you're so clear in yourself already that, and what other people do is up to them. Obviously, you can't, say, "Hey, that's a stupid idea. Don't do it." There could be some reason that I don't know of that it would be good for certain people to access that particular energy stream and so forth. She's certainly not one of my dark goddesses. I've had nothing to do with her. So, Astor says, keep your fever down as much as possible, Ian. Yeah, they gave him some stuff at the hospital. Carla says, worship of acknowledge. The darker entities are just our shadow self. Worship or acknowledge. Well, not necessarily. They're also independently of their own. They exist independently of our beliefs in them in general. So it isn't just your dark side. It is also, it may represent things that are going on for your shadow self, but it isn't necessarily a part of you in the literal sense. Jen says, I'm so sorry for what everyone is going through. Medical gaslighting sucks. Why they were passive aggressive about going to the ER when sick is beyond me. They are a hospital. I know. It's literally their job to help sick people. Yeah, I definitely felt gaslit and a lot of passive aggressive energy. And I'm sitting there going like, I'm keeping it together for the sake of making sure that they do what they need to do for my hubby. Jen says, oh, Beth says, ah, Jen, you're so sweet. Let's send Ian some love. They're sending you some love, dear.
Thank you.
And Jen says, definitely lots of love and healing vibes for everyone and for Siofra to not get sick. Asher says, have you heard about the New Jersey UFO drones? I felt triggered because of how mean people were to me when I saw my UFOs that chased me. Part of me is like, now you people treated me bad. We'll see. Well, I heard about them, and the FBI is investigating it, and it is kind of, we need to find out what they are because they're the size of cars. Flying cars. I mean, we don't have those yet. Drones the size of cars, problematic. Both New Jersey, New York, and over a secret, well, I don't know if it was a secret meeting of military people, but it was there. Oh, thank you, Tina. Tina sent us $10. Hello. That's very sweet of you. Teresa says, when the ER doctor noticed my pentacle, he became very respectful toward me, but he was nice to begin with, too. Well, that's nice. I didn't wear anything this morning because I never know for sure exactly how they're going to respond. Pastor says, I see UFOs every night. I know. Beth says, most women I know that connect with Lilith have issues with men. That could be why they're attracted to her in the first place. Jay says, yay, Tina. Carla says, yes, for sure. Just energetically speaking, I always see them as an integration of light and dark. Tina says, for the hospital. Well, thank you. Our visit was free, but we appreciate it. We had to buy, some supplement stuff. So that'll help with that. Cough syrup and emergency. Astra says, there are big balls of light and can look like stars, but they will flash and move and follow me. Yeah, it's got to be uncomfortable having them flashing, moving, and following you. I wouldn't like that. So I don't know. I may not come to visit soon. I was thinking you're not that far away, and it's possible in the future we might come visit because we like Mount Shasta area, but and came together. They split apart. I've seen one that looks like the drones and thought it was just a drone, but it split apart and turned silver and then spun around and came together. Yeah, that's not something drones do. They have plenty of video of these drones, though. And there were a lot of them. There were like 20 or so in New Jersey that this guy got on video. I think they're fairies and angels. Maybe. I guess maybe one day we'll know. In the meantime, Asha says, I see them all out at the same time. They have a regular schedule. Awesome. Do you have any UFO investigators in your area? Like, have you called MUFON about this, and have they sent someone out to document it? They might be worth a call. John Deere says, hey guys, just curious, would you happen to have information on what some refer to as soulless humans or organic portals? I think Dion Fortune referred to them as non-humans. George Gurchev as well spoke on them. Yeah, not me either. Somebody once thought I was one, but they were wrong. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a curious thing. It's not something we're that familiar with and haven't really encountered, as far as I know. Of course, I think most sociopaths are soulless, so that's just my personal opinion. They certainly don't have any feelings, which makes them true aliens in my book. Astor says, that would be cool to see you guys if you ever hear Shasta. I have some independent paranormal investigators, but have not contacted MUFON. I heard they treated Chris Bledsoe and his family terribly. I don't know. It depends on what investigators you get, I'm assuming. But you can go onto MUFON's website and see if anyone in your area is also reporting the lights at the same time. They may already have an investigation ongoing. If it's been that frequent, I would suspect that they would. So then you can find out how many of your neighbors in the local area may have been reporting it. It'd be interesting anyway. I check every so often just to see what's going on in my area, just, get a heads up. Astor says, look up the Chris Bledsoe story. He had a very similar experience. I think I've seen some stuff about it, but it's been too long. I don't remember. Teresa says, some brain scans have shown the brains of narcissists aren't lit up in many parts. I forget the specifics. And Astor says, yeah, maybe I'll report it. Actually, the brain scans are, they are functional MRIs that they've done on sociopaths and psychopaths, and their empathy centers aren't lit up. They don't work at all. They show them a series of images, benign and then horrific and then beautiful, of sort of a, like a spectrum. And a true sociopath personality has sort of a flat line for all of them, no matter what the image is. Someone who is more normally wired has varying responses, and different parts of the brain light up depending on what they're looking at. So they look at something that makes them feel happy, and one part of the brain goes. They look at something that horrifies them, a different part of the brain goes. And yes, they've been able to identify that their brains really work differently than everyone else's, or don't work like they should, in my opinion, for everyone else. But it's maybe a good sign that they've identified that at this point, because that means they might be able to come up with a way to activate that part of the brain that they're missing, and maybe we could fix them, which would be nice. Astor says, yeah, maybe I'll report it. He says the beings are angels, but a lot of the beings told him they are the gardeners of humanity. That would be Chris Bledsoe. And he saw Hathor, but didn't know who it was till later. Yeah, I don't think that the gods are aliens or angels. I think they're the gods. I think they're separate things. But people like labels, and they use labels differently. Each one of us has got our own definition of these words. That's one of the things that make figuring out things in communication sometimes difficult. You're not always talking about the same thing. I think it's just how he's interpreting it, says Astra. Yeah, exactly. That is what happens. But yeah, I've read a lot of Dion Fortune, and I don't remember seeing that thing. Is that in her book, Psychic Self-Defense? Maybe I need to read it again. That one gave me so many ideas. I ended up doing some distance healing work based on some of the stuff I found in that book. Teresa says, I'm still trying to figure out what makes a god or goddess. We touched on it last week. Jay says, wow, that's really important information to know about the empathy centers of sociopaths being broken, so no reasoning with them. Yeah. John Deere says, yes, that's the book it's in. Okay, I'll look it up, and I'll see what it says. Because now I'm curious. I haven't read that book in quite some time. But again, unless you run into one, it's probably not a problem, right? I hope. Met some strange people, and we've seen some odd things, but nothing that would seem that they didn't have a human soul. Not yet. People can be portals. A lot of mediums, that's what they do. That's how they cross spirits over, is by using their body as a portal, which is a bad idea, in my opinion. That's not the way to go about it. But so certainly there's the potential for a person to be a portal. Asha says, I don't know why these monsters are allowed to incarnate with us. Well, I mean, it's probably automatic. I mean, I don't know that there is like an intelligence that's looking at every body and every person coming in and stuff like that and saying, no, not you, go somewhere else. Since we don't believe in heaven and hell and we believe in reincarnation, it's sort of a different mental image for that. And the problem is we reward them. And that's the problem. If they weren't rewarded, they would stop doing the things that most of them anyway, would stop doing what they're doing because they wouldn't be able to get away with it. They wouldn't be able to get away with robbing people and so forth. And um, yeah, but yeah, just sort of the reality. Carla says, Teresa, look into Mesopotamian mashup. I feel that could be helpful. Astor says, sociopaths should go to their own reality. Teresa says, mashup? Beth says, oh no, I've never used my body to cross over. I know. I had it happen to me accidentally once. It wasn't my body that the spirit was using, but she went through my body to get to the portal that I opened. There were two spirits in the room at the time, and the first one was just so anxious to go when she saw the light. She wasn't thinking, I wasn't thinking, and then wham, she just like went right through me, which left some interesting after effects and imagery and stuff from her. But yeah, so the other spirit watched and saw that I was not happy with it, and then he was very, very careful to avoid my body when he went to the portal, because we were in a small bathroom, so it wasn't like there was a lot of room. But it taught me a lesson right then and there, and so I've been careful from that moment on to make sure that doesn't happen again. That says, oh no, people. Carla says, look at Mesopotamian gods and goddesses, then Egyptian, then Roman, then Greek. You'll see, yes, mash up. It should pull some good reading material up. Astra says, I have spirits try to use my body as a portal. It's the little tiny orbs go through me. It's annoying. I told him to knock it off. Yeah. That says, oh gosh, that's not safe. Well, yeah, you don't need your energy body being interrupted constantly by little things popping in and out. So Teresa's going to respond. I've done lots of reading on all that. So she has done the research. But, what the gods and goddesses are, that's kind of a personal experience kind of thing. I mean, I know they're real because I've met some, and they're definitely distinct from me and any other energy I've ever encountered. They're not thought forms because I know what those feel like, that they have independent reality and their own, their own, I don't know what to call it, um, impulses, their own agendas that sometimes coincide with humans and sometimes don't. So, yeah. And they're generally pretty giving of their energy when you connect with them. So that's nice. They're definitely not like angels. They're different from angels, sure. They have a very different energy signature from that. But they are sort of complete. I mean, a thought form isn't complete. Thought form is sort of one dimensional. Even if it's a complex thought form, it's still pretty one dimensional. There's like, it might have a bunch of stuff you can tell about it from seeing it, but it's generally more narrowly identifiable than something more complex like a fairy, an angel, or a god or a goddess. Even though they're different from each other, they still have that in common. They're definitely much more complex signature. So Beth says, Astra, does it make you feel drained? Astra says, I see the fairies have little lights that travel around and come out of them like a bubble machine. Teresa says, Siofra, you once said that god goddesses have stand-ins. How does that differ from a spirit who might be working with them? No, I didn't mean gods and goddesses having stand-ins. I meant the heads of the elemental kingdoms. They have there is a job title. The names of them are job titles, and different spirits can take on that job and do it. Gods and goddesses are different. They're complete in and of themselves and separate from other things. So I'm sorry if I said that wrong or gave you the wrong impression of what I meant, but Asha says it's just itchy. It's like they're playing, like they're at a playground, but it's annoying. Jesus says maybe. Astra says, laugh out loud. They swirl around me. Teresa says, I overgeneralized. Well, I'm going to try and take off my sweater. Apparently it's not cooperating. Come here, sweater. Ah, there we go. I got one free. Get the other one free. Whee! All right. There we go. Well, you know me, I'm literal. So, whatever words you type, those are the words I see, and those are the words I respond to. So, my brain is sometimes annoying that way. There have been any number of jokes people have made on our live shows that I didn't get and that people had to explain to me. So, I'm sorry. It's just the way, it's like sometimes they use the wrong interpretation of a word. Ashley says, my cat, too. He has tiny little ones who dance around him. It's just like a disco here. Well, we were watching Our Oceans, the new documentary on Netflix that Barack Obama is narrating. And it's just amazing to see the different kinds of lights that biological forms make, like the bioluminescence in the ocean when the plankton has got their lights going and things swim through it off the coast of Los Angeles, and it was just spectacular, and fireflies and their chemical interactions and so forth blinking on and off and that kind of thing. So it doesn't surprise me that non-physical life forms, some of them might also have lights, to sort of sparkle and attract attention or play or what have you. Teresa says, so many of my experiences of Hecate are so similar to what other people who work with her experience. It's a wild ride. And I'm sure, that's one of the ways that it's the same being, I would assume. But even with that, different personalities are going to interact with different aspects of gods and goddesses, depending on where you're at and what your energy is like and how they see us, what they choose to do, that kind of thing. Definitely interesting, though. Ian is laying on the floor right now, relaxing.
Yep, more pleasant down here at the moment.
Says it's more pleasant down there for him at the moment. I don't know if you can hear him because he's a little farther away from the mic than usual.
Well, and facing the back of it, so probably can't.
Yep, probably not. But he's here in case we need him. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what doing the Zoom classes will be like. It's an experiment. Why not? Yep. Asher says, I left them sweets as a peace offering that one time, and then the floodgates of fairies flew into my home. It's kind of like when you feed an alley cat and they bring their friends. Jay says, we can hear you, Ian. Glad you're resting. Cool. Teresa says, yes, she has different aspects, some higher, some lower. So I was wondering whether it's an entity who is smart and able to tap into many, many people, or if she is a true goddess. My assumption is she's probably a true goddess, but the important thing is how the interaction works for you, if it works for you, what you're learning from it, if you're getting what you need out of it, if it's compatible for you or not. Beth says rest, Ian. He is. Yep, he's right in front of the heater on the floor. Carla says, I've offered safe passage to Faye through my home. That's an interesting idea. Have you tried giving them something outside of your house that they like a little garden space or whatever with some pretty rocks and things, and put your offerings outside? Or is that what you already did and then they thought, hey, we should come in? Just curious. Asher says a medium came over and could hear them chattering. I've only heard them a few times. I often hear bells when they're around, and smell mint, is pretty common. But I also sometimes hear their voices, like the group of fairies that wondered if my staff was a shillelagh, which at the time I hadn't heard of. So that was kind of interesting. It just sort of popped into my head. Carla says, I have and grow a lot of sweetgrass out front. Tasha says, I heard the chimes before. Yeah. Carla says, a pot. A pot of sweetgrass, yeah. I was wondering if Astra had done that, if she had put in an outside space just for the fairies so that they could go play there instead of flying through her body in her house. Never know. Sometimes these things work. We sometimes, Carla says, I'm sorry. No, that's fine. I think it's good that you answered that question. I mean, it's not like it's a bad thing that you answered it. Just wondering about Astra, too. I have an outside space for them. They do come inside and visit, and usually before I go to bed. I was actually looking at my aura in the bath yesterday morning, and seeing what it was up to and what it was doing, and it was kind of interesting actually, because there's this bright green center that I have that's right close to my body, and then outside of that there's this violet energy that's pretty intense that I am now able to see. So my ability to see the colors is getting better or improving. I don't know what to say. Asha says, I did tell him to go outside. Yeah? Did you give him a place to go outside? And she says that Astra laugh out loud. Asha says, wow, like a hummingbird. Hmm. Yeah. You have like food for the hummingbird. You could have things for the fairies in your yard. Ben Ma says, does the colors come with meditation? Um, well, it comes with the being able to reprogram the things that like I could see this stuff pretty readily when I was a child, and I've been trying to undo a lot of the uh, cultural and social conditioning that has been imposed upon me, where I'm not supposed to be able to see that, and then some, potentially innate fear, like, am I going out of my mind? I'm having hallucinations. I'm seeing colors, those kinds of things. That's part of it. And the other part is practicing on focusing my eyes and allowing myself to see in a different energy spectrum so that I can then see the colors. And that's been in the last couple of years that the colors have come in vividly. And sometimes I get some pretty spectacular colored light shows in my head when I'm getting ready to go to sleep. Not all the time, but every so often it'll just be like all kinds of colors coming and going, and sparkles and whatnot. And so allowing it to happen, I'm not trying to push it, but I like to practice it in certain situations, and water seems to be a good medium for practicing that. So in the bath is a good location, because I just put my foot up out of the water and then look at my foot and unfocus around um, the area around my foot until I can start to see the energy. Now I'm making I'm feeling my own tinglies when I do that, and see what I can see and where it is, and try not to have an expectation of what I'm going to see, so I can try and see whatever is actually there to view, not necessarily knowing what it means in particular, but yeah. So that's it. Just a little bit of practice here and there whenever. Astra says, I'm cracking up right because they're in my room right now, ear hustling. Ben Law says, so it was both innate and learned. Yeah. I mean, you can increase your abilities for sure by practicing and so forth. And I think most people are actually born with the ability to see these things, but it gets trained out of them pretty early when they start to talk about the things that they're seeing, and their parents look at them sideways and say, what's wrong with you? Or there's nothing there. I don't see anything. And then you want to please them and make sure. So Carla says, I do your sacred tree meditation in the tub. Oh, good spot. And Ma says, that makes sense. Yeah. Teresa says, when I buried something for a spell, a fairy wanted me to put a certain rock on top of it, which I did. I gave them a heart-shaped trinket in thanks. Then she brought her friend to see the heart. That's cool. That says, after you get used to it. Water is super helpful, says Carla. That says, love, Teresa. Yeah, it's kind of funny when objects and things start talking to you. I mean, the animals and so forth, I'm always interacting with them as if they have a voice and I'm responding to what they say. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who do that, but I have inanimate objects that have very particular tastes, and like my dragon bracelet will only sit on my right wrist facing me. I can't wear it anywhere else. It won't let me. It's very particular. But how do you know that? That's the thing. It's like you get this very strong sensation. It's just like, okay, this isn't right. And uh, you can practice that intuition. You could take like a small bowl of different colored stones, different kinds of crystals and things like that, and then take a cloth and just put a cloth down on a flat surface, and then start putting those stones on on the cloth, and then see how when you put one down, it changes how the whole thing feels, and whether it feels better or not so good. Like you can probably have a dozen or more different ways to place a group of rocks, stones, and crystals in close proximity to one another where there will be a compatible energy that's happening. And there'll be one way where nothing works. Most people like us can't do that one way. I was in a museum once that had display cases where every single display case, every object in the display was in the wrong place in relation to every other object. And talk about discordant. That was like insane. I couldn't understand how anyone could do that. So that's part of that intuition, that feeling of what things want, what they like, what's good for them, what's good for you, and so forth. You get that kind of feedback. That's a good way of practicing, uh, getting that, figuring that out, and how it works for you, and so forth. And the more you practice with that kind of stuff, like you do single stones and feel their energy and see what they feel like, and see if you can sense a color, an idea of a color, whether you can see a color. Um, and you have to be good at like quieting your mind and blanking your thoughts, because if you bring an expectation to it, then you're going to change the input, um, and you're not going to necessarily get exactly what it is the stone is doing or trying to do or is for, and that kind of thing. So it's a good way of practicing being in the moment as well, as sharpening your intuitive abilities and so forth. But yeah, um, it's just sort of automatic with me now. If I do something that something in my environment doesn't like, I know about it right away. They're like, what? Well, Ben Ma says, I do feel a pull from inanimate objects often, but I'm also a story writer, so with a very honed imagination, I struggle to know when something is there and when it's just me. Yeah, that's the trick, is to practice. Beth says, that drives me bonkers, Siofra. Yeah, no kidding. Shay says, wow, what a great notion to place the stones in relation to one another and practice one's intuition. Astra says, one of them, who sometimes sends me creepy little images of his face, telepathy, started spinning around and laughing when he made me laugh. He looked like a sparkling star, little spinning Mashogana. And Beth says, love Shay. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like you don't have to go somewhere in particular in order to practice these things. Everyday items and objects and the little moments, a few minutes at a time, can really add up as far as opening up your intuition and your ability. And it is sometimes difficult to tell the difference, especially if you have a great imagination. I'm a person that has one of those too. When I had my shamanic dismemberment, it's like the things I was seeing were so intense and real and so forth. One of the thoughts that I had was, I have a good imagination, but it's not that good. So my assumption was that it was real because of that. It certainly seemed real at the time. And they were my thoughts and thought forms and fears, and mostly fears, anxieties, and whatnot. I mentioned it a little bit in the latest video on sacrificing, where they were asking me to give up my spirit and go with them to save my husband's spirit at the time, not Ian, who's a lovely man, and wouldn't need to have me do that anyway. But yeah, my first husband. So, healthy skepticism, an important quality to have, regardless of anything and everything that's going on. Always good to have healthy skepticism, and I applaud it. Shay says, thank you, Beth. So, yeah. The universe is an interesting place to look into and discover, explore, and experience. Asher said, I saw a white light in my mind every time I closed my eyes. I think it was the Kundalini in my brain, but it was like a white light shining in my brain. Yeah, Ian and I get that too. And it is it's like you're seeing with your astral vision, I think, when your eyes are closed. And in the astral, there is no darkness really. When I popped out of my body in the middle of the night once, I was surprised at how I could see everything in the room. It was like there's a light that goes through all of reality. There was no sun or anything, but I could see without a problem. And I think that's what that light is in our heads, is that kind of light. Asher says, I had to open my eyes to see if someone was shining a light in my face. Yes. I've had that happen too. And when Ian and I were both talking about it, it's like we were wondering when we discovered we both had it. We're like, is this really a light in our head, or is this just like everyone has this? And then they turned the light off. And we found out, no, indeed, it is a light, because they could turn it off. And then we went, whoa! And then they turned it back on. We're like, okay, I guess we will accept this reality at this point. But it was pretty entertaining, that moment that it happened to both of us simultaneously. It's like, okay, it's like somebody had a big giant light switch and they just went clock. Okay, you see how dark it is? Plop. Look, there's light again. We're like, okay. Carla says, do you guys dream anymore? I haven't dreamt vividly in years. Yes, I dream. Ian dreams. Yes, we still dream. Asher says it was so shocking. Yes, it's like we're in a big shimmering pool of light. Yeah. And wow, is that God do that? I have no idea, but it definitely worked on us. Whatever it was that did that. Jay says they have a sense of humor as well. Well, I mean, it let us know, because that was the question. Does everyone have this? Is this really a light? I mean, maybe that's just what it looks like when people close their eyes and it's dark outside. No, okay. That's settled. Move on to something new. But yeah, glad that we're home and not at the hospital still. They were so annoying this morning. I was so annoyed. Arg. Wanted to slap them all upside the head. People. But yes, we definitely still dream. Ian is still working on his inner world as far as it goes. He still has mostly annoying dreams. Granddaughter's dreams are getting better though, so that was cool. Jay says, glad you two are home now. Yeah, me too. Better to be home and not being yelled at by medical staff. ATC says, do you have a favorite god or goddess you work with? Well, my personal goddess is Aurora, but I've worked with a lot of them. Aphrodite was my first goddess, and she and I have a really strong connection and still do. And her other, like Astarte, Ishtar, Aphrodite, they're all sort of, depending on where you lived, was what you called her, kind of thing. So the mishmash idea. But Aphrodite has definitely sent me signs, definite signs, clear signs, like sending me roses when I was going to be getting a job. people delivering roses to me on the bus and at a job I was doing before I went for an interview. And so, there's a clearly strong connection there. I've worked with Holly. Um, I've started working with Sarasvati and Lakshmi. It just really depends. And Bridget has been a strong influence for me. I did that beaded image of her. And being Irish in this life, this body or whatever, Bridget's been an important sort of influence. And she's an interesting goddess to have because she's a goddess of poetry, creativity, storytelling, it's, as well as healing, smith working, and all the other stuff that she does. And she really likes her worship to be spontaneous, and that can be hard sometimes to like be inspired in the moment and do a spontaneous utterance to a goddess and so forth. So she definitely asks you to step up and let go of your fear of performance, I guess. Um, so yeah, and Celine, excuse me, Serena's someone else, um, and Hecate it's at times. So I really loved Greek mythology. That was my first introduction to gods and goddesses was like in the fourth grade, and we learned about Greek mythology, and that sort of blew my mind. And that's where I started with Aphrodite. I guess my very first goddess would have been Mary, the Virgin Mary. Even though I wasn't raised Catholic, somehow I was very much attracted to her. I was raised a Methodist, but I always did the Virgin Mary prayer, Mother Mary, Mother of God, that one, um, which I thought was weird because I definitely wasn't Catholic in this life. Carla says Inanna. I used to dream, but I don't know what happened. Inanna, Aphrodite, yeah, Inanna, Ishtar, Astarte, and Aphrodite. For a while, it was being known as Lady Ishtar. Yeah, we did an experiment like in our group where each of us took on a goddess name for a period of time. It's sort of a way to kind of match your energy to a form, god or goddess. And so we all called each other by different gods and goddesses names that we chose for about a year. It was kind of interesting experiment. Carla says, my first and only goddess. Jen says, Siofra, do you have tips on the best way to learn Tarot? I am trying to learn it to be able to reconnect to my intuition and to reconnect with myself. Then when I pull cards, but then don't know how to interpret them because of my disconnection to myself. It's like a catch-22. Interesting. Well, my recommendation actually would be to do one card a day or a week, depending on how much you want to delve into that card, and just like study a single card at a time. You can sleep with the card under your pillow. You can see if you can dream about the card. I had one deck once I worked with that actually came to me that way, which was kind of bizarre and unexpected. Each night, one of the cards would come to me, show me itself, told me what it was and what it meant before I went to sleep. So that was kind of interesting. I haven't done tarot in a long time because I'm sort of not in a place where it seems the thing for me to do. But certainly my history of using tarot from high school on until probably my mid 20s at least, if not my early 30s, helped me to develop my understanding of symbolism, and all this other stuff that's hidden in the cards to start with. Gray-eyed witch says hearts. Thank you. Teresa says I had a dog named Artemis, another named Pan, and a goat named Odin. ATC said nice. I've been pulled to Norse gods and goddesses. Thor has nice energy, but Wan Yin is my mother and my go-to. Yeah, I have a lot of her statues show up around me. She's also a very, and she's a trans goddess. She was male when she was in China, and she became female when she went to Japan. So I think that's really interesting and cool. And Thor likes me. I definitely have attracted his attention on a number of occasions, hence the getting hit by lightning. Beth says, I connect to Mother Mary, Isis, and others. Carla says, Other than Mother Mary, I was raised Catholic. Yeah. Teresa says, but my dog Pan was really named Mr. Pancake. Well, not really a pan then. A different kind of pan. Teresa says, or Carla says, pretty sure Isis and Nana is the same too. And I remember actually working with Isis, one of my several past lives, a couple of them actually. And I also remember being worshiping and working in Aphrodite's temple in Greece. And then I remember being, I always have to remember the words when I'm trying to think of it. But I worked at the Oracle at Delphi before it was dedicated to Apollo. Because when I found out it was dedicated to Apollo, I'm like, that's not right. When I learned about it in this life, and then I looked it up, and sure enough, I was right. It wasn't originally Apollo, so yeah. But yeah. Violet says, speaking of tarot, did you find out that there was a main deity that watches over the tarot? Well, yeah, we know this from Crowley. Astra says, ah, that's cute, pancakes. Astra says, ha ha, Thor, I forgot about him. Jen said, thank you. You're welcome. I mean, there's a lot of variety. Carla says, my go-to is A.A. Michael. I call him Michael Angel Mike. He's the first who showed up. Astra says, I feel attracted to Dionysus. Well, I hope you like to party, because that's what he likes to do. So, okay. Definitely into that. He's also a healing god, too, I think. All of them have more than one aspect. Ben Ma says, I've always had trickster energy around me ever since I was very young. Being mischievous would always bring an odd sense of relief, as if it was validation from something that wasn't me. Well, Ian's spirit animal is Coyote, who's often considered a trickster. And I think it's more, yeah, he's got such a wonderful sense of humor. I really like his. It's very quirky. Jen says, who is the deity over Tarot? Do you know the name, Ian?
Well, the uh, Golden Dawn used an angel called HUA. That's all I know about that, really.
Okay, it says the Golden Dawn used an angel called HUA, but that's all he knows about it, really. Now, not just on the floor, but facing away from the microphone. And Carla says, the god of debauchery pissing off the Puritans for millennia. I dig him too. Astor says, I think because I never had a lot of fun growing up, so I think that energy will help me to lighten up. Yeah, I'm sure. Just, don't become one of his crazy women that go out there and tear men limb from limb during their madness. Probably don't want to go that far. But hey, that's the thing. It's like, they can help us experience new things and stuff. So that's just laughing. Yeah. Apparently, although he's fun loving, his women are sometimes insane and not so fun. And Ma says, Dionysus is awesome. Asher says, isn't he a form of Pan? Well, I don't know. Pan was separate from Dionysus in Greek mythology, and Pan was more of a woodland deity. He's more like the leader of the Fae than he is. I mean, if he's a god more for the Fae, not the way Dionysus is. Different, I think. Again, laugh out loud, Carla. Have I guess they have been around for a millennia. Never mind. Probably more than one millennia. Carla says, Jen, laugh, laugh, laugh. So we're getting some definite hilarity going here, which is good. Asher says, I'm thinking I'm mixing them up. Pan is about sensuality and music, nature. He goes in the woods. He was one of the images that they used for Satan because he was half goat, half human. He had goat horns. He played the pan flute is named after him, and the idea is that if he plays his flute, if you hear his music, you are let's see, completely drawn in to your sensual nature. It activates that part of yourself. And there was this movie, The Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe, an older movie, but it has some of the most perfect explanations of Pan and who he was in there that I've ever seen. And so if you get a chance to see that, I recommend it. Quite delightful. What was the name of the actor who played in that? He's the guy that was in. Oh, never mind. My brain will get to it eventually, but I think you can find that. It says, I meant Pan. Okay, good to know. But look that up if you can, just because I don't know if it's available to watch or download or anything. A lot of times the older movies aren't, and even some of the newer movies aren't. You think like that should be out there, but you can't find it anywhere. Jen says, "What is Baphomet? Is he an archetype, a spirit, or a deity?" Oh, no, it wasn't Peter Sellers. No, Peter Sellers wasn't. It wasn't him. He wasn't the one who played Pan in The Seven Faces of Dr. Lau.
I don't.
Right. I could look it up real quick, but he was in. Uh, yeah. Anyway. Okay, Astor says. So, what is Baphomet? Baphomet is male and female representation of deity.
A symbol.
A symbol, not really a deity himself, herself. Alchemical symbol, the union of opposites, a representation of life and the struggles of being alive and trying to find yourself. Certainly, the Satanic Church has absorbed or taken Baphomet as a as a literal deity, but I don't think that there's a historical context for Baphomet aside from when Levi, wasn't it Levi who wrote it?
Levi made the drawing, yeah, and he talks about it.
Yeah, Eliphas Levi is the one who actually drew the picture of him. And so if you want to know what he represents, read his definition, maybe?
I don't think he. Yeah. Levi is very.
Pedantic?
No. Over enthusiastically. Likes to wax poetic.
Just be warned. That's it. Tony Randall. Thank you, Shay. He looked it up. That's who was in it. Tony Randall. The Odd Couple. That's what I was trying to think of. He was in The Odd Couple with the other actor. And Tony Randall's performance in this was just phenomenal. Then Baphomet is not real, Teresa says.
Well, yeah. The Levi made the Baphomet as a symbol for the things that it represents, and the only previous reference we have is that the Templars worshipped a head that might or might not have gone under Baphomet. So it may have originally been like an egregore for the Templars. But the one we see nowadays was created by Levi as a symbol to make explicit the various things that Baphomet represents. So, no, but they probably had enough thought forms now. He's probably alive as a thought form. So they probably created Baphomet.
Jen says, thank you. I recently got a new Oracle card deck from Teal Swan, and my first pull after shuffling the deck thoroughly and asking what message I most needed to hear, got the Baphomet card. Astra says, we don't talk about Teal's, yes, here. Teresa says, thanks, Ian. Jen says, which then scared me because I didn't know anything about him really, but heard that he had something to do with the Church of Asayan.
Well, yeah, they've adopted the symbol. Yeah.
Violet says, Jen, cool, great questions. Carla says, egregore, like a golem? No, not quite.
No, an egregore is more like an egregore is a thing. Usually, like it can be like a statue or something, or basically, when you call something an egregore, it's usually something that one person or a lot of persons put their energy into. And in the case of the Saturn fraternity, they had a big head. I think theirs was called GOAT, GOTOS or something. Um, but they purposely made their own god form for their order, and they called it that. And that's what you call an egregore. Everybody in the order worshiped that and put energy into it. So an egregore is basically a container of some type of energy or worship.
Yeah, and she meant Satan, which I'm not surprised. I thought it might be the same. I thought that might be what you meant. So Jen says, who used to say got freaked out? Typo. Beth says, Astra, smile. Carla says, egregore. Astra says, no tan sweel.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah. But hey, that's someone else's
Yep.
thing. So, but you know, yeah, it's a good question, especially since the Satanic Church has adopted it so publicly and putting statues
Openly, for
of
sure.
Baphomet anywhere they can manage to get one. And I have to say, I think their reasons are good in the sense that they're using it to try and promote religious freedom and point out that Christianity is not the only religion in the country. And if they're going to allow Christian symbols on public lands, they have to allow other religious symbols on public lands. It's been a battle for a long time. It wasn't really all that long ago that we finally got permission to use the pentagram on the graves of soldiers who died in battle that are at Arlington Cemetery, National Cemetery, and it was a whole group of people that worked really hard in order to make that happen. And then that allowed other religions and people to have their own symbols, like the Native Americans have got one now, and you know, it's sort of opened up that whole thing, because before that you either had nothing or you had a cross. That was it. You weren't allowed to have anything else. And so education is definitely important, but I'm not sure that that form of education that they're choosing, it seems to generate more fear, anxiety, and stupidity reaction on the part of the people that they're trying to educate than actually succeeding. Sort of feeds the whole notion that, you know, we're all going to Satan or something like that. So, Jen says, laugh out loud. Why the hate for Real Sean? I recently seen some of her shorts on YouTube and she made some good points. Okay, I am going to find the name of a documentary and I will post it to the community page. I think it's called A Deeper Dive. Watch it. And after that, you can decide what you think. I watched it. And after that, I don't want to have anything to do with her or her group. So, that's just mine. She a nutter or something? I don't want to listen to a nutter. Carla says, that tan squeal wowzers. Run, Jen. Stay far away. Teresa says, a number of years ago, I thought of having a pagan cemetery. Some people thought it was a good idea. If I come into money someday, I might. Asher says, David Koresh made some good points, and look where that ended up. Oh, God. David Koresh. I love that. Sorry. You really got me with that one. Yeah, and yes, I read it correctly. Violet says, what is a deeper dive about? I missed something. It's a documentary about Teal Swan and her group, her channel, the way it works, what she does, and her own videos. It's all actually her own videos. So yeah. Jen says, Kay, I'll look it up. I am trying to heal and got recommended her vids because of the algorithm, but don't want to waste time listening to someone I shouldn't. Okay, if you haven't really gotten into her and you don't know what she is, I don't recommend getting into her because she likes to manipulate people who are in pain and you're exactly her target group. So be cautious, please. Violet says, ooh. Beth says, I read that little girl's energy. Be careful. Yeah. And says, David Koresh. Oh, no. Asher says, then watch the interview of her childhood friend who was abused by her, has PTSD from it. I watched it with my friend who's a psychologist, and she had some opinions. Yeah. And you know, it's, Beth says, bingo, Siofra. Thank you. Tina says, I got a weird vibe from her. She vibes with victimhood. Yes, she does, very seriously so. And she's also into planting false memories. So, yeah, it's just all kinds of not good things. Jen says, oh, wow, yeah, I want nothing to do with that. Astra says she's a sociopathic vampire. Okay, I can get behind that. That sounds right. Carla says she's dark, Bethy. I see too. Yeah, and me, you know, I'm into studying cults. So I run across this stuff a lot. So yeah, um, it's disturbing. And if I'm wrong about the name when I go in the house, I'll get on and I'll put it in. I'll check. I actually have it. I downloaded it actually, so that other people in the house can watch it. I want my granddaughter to see it. I think that she would find it very interesting. And right now, she's going to be going to a new group called Deconstructing Trauma, which I thought was interesting since I did that video on deconstructing thought forms. And I think there's going to be some similarities in what I came up with for deconstructing a thought form as the psychology department coming up with deconstructing trauma. So,
The deep end.
oh, it's called the deep end. Okay, sorry. I had the wrong
Yeah.
name. Not the deeper size, the deep
Right.
end.
It's a 4-part docu-series.
Okay, put it in here, the deep end. I'm typing it in. Thank you so much for the warning. Astor says, did you hear about the Mother God cult? Then says, now I see why I got the Baphomet card. Her own deck was warning me. That's the first card I pulled. Astor says her followers wrapped her corpse in Christmas lights and glitter. The Mother God cult. There are so many of them out there, and every so often I come across one I've never heard of, and I go like, how the heck? How many are there out there? And the thing is that anyone with a little bit of, you know, being a sociopath, being a cult leader is kind of like, you know, one of their go-to moves, besides being a thief or, you know, serial killer or whatever. Cult leader, yeah. That says she's a little girl to us. She's a leader. Her good points, she copied others in a young, cute package. Your best interest is not her agenda. Astor says, I watched that documentary, The Deep, and it triggered my cult abuse memories, and I was crying for a week and had to call my therapist. Oh, I'm so sorry, Astra. Yeah, that's one of those things you have to be careful. It's good to have someone with you when you're watching something like that, if you can, in case it does trigger that. And it is extremely disturbing, in my opinion. So I was glad I saw it. Jen says, thank you all so much. You're welcome, Jen. We try not to tell people what to do because everyone is different. And, you know, free will is a rather important thing. But if you ask for my opinion, I will give it. And so there you go. That's my opinion. You can take it or leave it. And says, hugs Astra, and yay to Astra for being assertive. Thank you. Beth says, Jen, hearts. Yeah, we want to keep all of our people safe, and making sure you're not getting involved in something that's going to undermine your ability to choose your own path and heal. This is all about getting better, not getting worse. So, yay! We have a good group of people on our live show, so I appreciate you guys. Good for jumping in. Jay says, hooray for your honest opinion, Siofra. This has been wonderful watching, listening to the entire live stream. Thank you, Siofra and Ian. Feel better, Ian. Asher says, in the doc, when she singled out his girlfriend and everyone acted like they were reading her intentions, it was almost just like what I experienced. I know! That was very intense. And I'm like, wow. It's just, I'm glad he was in love with her, really. His girlfriend. That's what got him out of the cult. He'd been with her from the beginning. And he escaped, and I was very proud of him. And I was really glad that he actually got that true heart connection with someone else, so that when she was being singled out and abused by everybody in that group, he knew, he saw, and acted. So, yes, good for him. Jen says, Astra says, that was so gross. Carla says, we love you too. Jen says, thank you, I appreciate that. No one can know everything, so I greatly appreciate the warning and help. You guys are the best. Astra says, yes, good for them. And Violet says, you always make me smile, Siofra. I don't say too much. I'm always walking around doing stuff with a headset on, but I'm always here with sunny thoughts for you both. Thank you. We appreciate that. Yeah, life is certainly an interesting hodgepodge of stuff trying to figure out. That's why I like to stay simple. It's like taking care of yourself, being good to being who you are, knowing who you are, working on you. Taking care of your heart and your spirit and so forth, and guarding that fragile connection that you have. And finding the right help can be difficult when you need it. I'm in favor of mental health practitioners and psychotherapy and everything else. Got to find the right person. The wrong person can do you a lot more harm than almost anything else on the planet when it comes to our sense of self and mental health and stability and stuff like that. So, yeah, you definitely don't need that. Absolutely. But I'm a simple person. My granddaughter did all of her dishes this week. She finally got around to it, and I looked at my sink, and my utilities thing was full of forks that she had washed. There was like 20 forks. And I was going like, oh, my forks, they're back. I was so happy. I had my forks back. So, I told her, I said, thank you for giving me back all my forks. I says, I'm a pretty simple person. It doesn't take much to make me happy. It's like little things make me very happy. Watching the bunny hop around, and we got him some cups this week, so he's taking them and spreading them around the living room. He likes that. I got him a thing that was supposed to be like a tunnel made out of the Timothy hay. You'd have to be an infant and minuscule bunny to fit in that thing. False advertising, I do believe, was involved in that. I think
it's less than half the size of our bunny.
There's no way he could fit under that thing, and his head would definitely not fit up it. So yeah, we were kind of bummed about that, but hey. Jen says, a simple, honest life. Yep, I agree 100%. Beth says, keep it simple, guard you, nurture you. Yes. Jen says, ha ha, may the forks be with you. Yep. I love my forks. I like the smaller forks that we have, and she was using them all. Oh no, I have no forks. So, all right. Well, we managed to be here for the entire time, so that's awesome. It's about time for us to go. We're like a minute and a half away, so we might as well start going now. So, guys, thank you for answering the questions, the surveys. I had to have 3 or 4 of them up since they only let me have 4 options. Like, what kind of a survey is that? And we'll see where I end up going, and see what happens, and how Ian is feeling, and so forth. And I'll decide when I'm going to plan them, and I'll notify everybody. And yeah, we will have limited room, and you'll see what I offer. I guess I'll see what I offer. So Jen says, I want to see Quinn so much. Would you ever put a short up on your channel of him? He sounds so cute. I do have a video. I don't know if I got it up on my Facebook page or not. I did, I think. So if you go to my Facebook page, Siofra Bradigan, there is a video. If you look under pictures, videos, etc., I have at least one video of Quinn washing his face. It was pretty cute. So, and Carlos, Ian says goodbye, everybody. Violet says thank you. Carlos says get well, Ian. Stay well, Shifra. It says bye, everyone. Have a great week. Ben Moss says this was lovely. Thank you. Today was my birthday, and getting to chat here was a great time. Well, thank you for participating. And says feel better, Ian. Lots of love and healing vibes to you and everyone. Thank you as
everybody.
always, Shifra. Beth says blessed be everyone. Ian Heal. Ian says thanks for your participation. Jen says great chat. Beth says I love it here. Carla says HBD. Ben Ma. Astra says thanks, guys. Jen says thank you. Have a great week. Everyone blessed be. Ian says happy birthday, Ben. Beth says happy birthday to Ben. Astra says happy birthday. We are family, Teresa says, and we're all going to break into song. Okay. So bye, guys. Love y'all.
Bye.